Welcome to the Community ROI podcast. Here, senior community experts, founders, and C-level managers tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about how community impacts business growth. By listening to these conversations, you'll get actionable steps on how to connect community goals with business goals to skyrocket business growth while still bringing extreme value to community members. My name is Yurii. I help people and brands shine through communities and personal connections. And my guest is Gift Ojeabulu, a machine learning engineer, developer advocate, author, speaker, and co-founder of Data Community Africa, one of the largest data and AI communities globally, who treats community not as a soft skill, but as something you can engineer, measure, and connect directly to business outcomes. So welcome, Gift.
Yeah, welcome, Yurii. Good to have you here, and I'm happy to have this conversation with you here.
I can't wait to learn from you. Can't wait to ask you all the questions I have and maybe a little bit more. And of course, kudos to Jennifer for connecting us. It's like the best part, when some amazing humans talk about some other amazing humans. So can't wait to jump in the conversation. And right away, tell me the first question, what is one community activity that you enjoy the most and why?
I'll say that's an amazing question because as much as I do a lot of community things, they are definitely favorite. But for me, I would say hackathons, right? Hackathons, precisely in-person hackathons, right? So in the data and AI space, some people tend to call it data-thons. Some people tend to call it like data-thons, right? Some people tend to call it AI hack. That's the short of hackathon. Some people tend to call it like AI hack. But yeah, the generic name in the tech space is hackathons now. So I think from the idea of hackers trying to figure things out, yeah. So as regards how it interests me, for me, I would say it's because it's always amazing to see where you put people in a space, like in a room, for them to, and they come at first when you give them a business problem, and they start with being clueless. Like maybe you're trying to achieve something to build an end-to-end solution using a particular tool that leverage a particular tool. Several tools in the AI space, thousands of tools, right? In this case, maybe we can give an example of maybe the likes of Pydantic, right? There are also several tools like LangChain and so on. So just putting a tool, an AI tool in the case, and you are like, okay, they should build a solution, generally leveraging several tools to solve a problem. Now, the state where a rookie team tend to come from being intimidated, and they try to bring out a solution, right, is what I find interesting, because in the problem of humans collaborating together, ideas tend to spark up. You get? So from this idea that it tends to spark up, it aligned directly with the business goal, and also allow people also improve their skill. From that way, they can when they build an amazing solution, companies tend to spot them when they share their solution online, that they can get either jobs or they can also solve problems using several AI tools. So that's one of the amazing things I tend to find interesting in community hackathons for me. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that the power of people, because I recently read the book called Influence, and they gave an amazing example inside that there was a cow, and they asked what is the size, what is the weight of the cow? And of course, nobody knows for sure. How do you know? But then they asked 100 people, and they took the average number of this 100 people, and they got almost exact weight of the cow. So it was different with 1 kilo. So that's exactly what you are talking about, that when you are putting people together in one place, it changes the whole difference, because they are putting all their ideas, all their thoughts, and they are collaborating. That's the beauty of the community. And also you touched a little bit the business part. So you told them that you are taking some business goal and putting people work on it. So if we are talking about creating community for business or around business, what is the part, how does this hackathon serve the business part?
Okay. I would say how it solves the business part is when you are definitely building a problem, when you bring people together in building hackathons, right? And you are trying to achieve, there's a goal to be achieved. you can bring in a solution, and you tend to tailor these goals to different fields. So someone can build a solution focused on agriculture, another person can build a solution focused on e-commerce, another person can build a solution focused on sports, another person can build a solution focused on fintech and banking. So now how we tend to help the business in this way from the community perspective is using the tool to solve problems in these different domains, right? So in that way, you are providing a solution to several fields in the ecosystem, and also using that particular tool, the product. Let me not use tool now. The product can be a platform. The product can be an actual product like a tool. It can be an open source community. It can be an enterprise kind of product, right? Using that to like solve all of this to a particular domain in the real world is what bring the business side, and it's aligned directly, correlate and link it up.
Yeah, it's something that companies are definitely missing, that they are forgetting about this moment that you can actually ask real people to take your product and use it, or even like create something for you. And that's also not just by, inviting people to, like, I don't know, with some incentives, hey, we'll give you some headphones or whatever, but actually because they are interested in that, because they actually want to solve this, they want to use this tool, they want to try it. And that's the thing that they're missing. But anyway, so if we are talking about community, some people define it as a place where people care for each other, where people enjoy working together, where the like-minded people, but it's all human definitions and we can talk about it forever. But from your perspective, what's your definition of a community for business?
Okay, from my perspective, I'll say it's a two-way street. A community for business is, the big word here is value. Now, in a two-way street, providing value to the business, to the organization, and also providing value to the communities, in this case, developers. In summary, that's community for business. Well, let me give you a practical scenario. When a community is hosted in a space, let's say a Discord channel, when people in that Discord channel, they tend to connect with each other, and they're asking questions around AI, machine learning, and leveraging several AI tools to their organization to solve several problems that can bring revenue to their organization, whether machine learning engineers, whether data engineers, whether data analysts, and several type of developers in this space, right? In this way, they are bringing value to their own business as a person. That's one. The second way is when they are trying to interact with each other, they are connecting with each other. And from the connection, they can refer each other in the future with jobs, for jobs. Maybe you answering someone questions now, this person can note you that when it comes to machine learning questions, this person have supported me in like building a solution, a practical solution in the real world for my company. In that way, this person connects with you. When there is a job for the person to hire, like maybe for a machine learning engineer for their company, they tend to think of you. And in that way, you've created a web, like a web in the community, that there is also the referral part where people get jobs for themselves. There is the part where people build solutions to the community. And also you that have the Discord channel itself, like, for example, in that way, people tend to use your product, which is also providing revenue, which can increase the return of investment, can be converted to a pipeline for sales later, where they tend to adopt like the software as a service beyond the open source side, for example, that bring revenue to your own community. Maybe they can subscribe to your software as a service, like maybe $12 per month, like the way people tend to do with the likes of ChatGPT and Claude, that they tend to subscribe, that they probably deduct them different depending on the model you want. As an individual, as an organization, it can be $20 per month, it can be $100 per month. So things like this, in that way, that's what I would describe like community for businesses. Like in that way, it's benefiting a three-way street, from the individual to their career to also the organization where they are embedded as an home base to the Discord channel.
And at the end of the day, everyone is happy, hopefully, because business is happy, they get what they want. People are happy because, first of all, they get paid, of course. and also they are working on something they enjoy. And that's how you grow. Because when you tackle new and new tasks, especially when you are doing for different businesses, not just maybe one, but when you tackle different tasks, you get in growing together. And once again, I would also add the fourth part, because you're also giving it back to community. Because when you are working on a project, you are learning, and then you're going to a community, you are sharing it with people, they are learning, and then it's a continuous flywheel. So it's even better. Like everyone is happy.
Yeah.
And I went a little bit through your post, and one of your latest posts, you wrote that I see and treat community as an ETL, like extract, transform, load pipeline. So tell me more about that.
Okay, that's really nice. So that thinking is the data pipeline thinking, right? So there's the definitely extract, transform, and load. So I tend to see community as, first of all, extraction, ingestion. You bringing people to the community, just like the data pipeline, because I've worked as a data scientist and done things around engineering. The transformation side now is the part I explained, where the value to the organization, the value to the community members organization, and also the value to the community member itself. That is where the transformation comes in, right? And now there's the load in terms of people tend to advocate for your community over time, because community members tend to help themselves and advocate for the community. Because there are cases, let me give an instance. I don't work for Anthropic, but I'm a big advocate of Claude, because I built solutions with Claude that I used it and I was like, wow, this is actually nice, and this is actually amazing. And I can't imagine things I spent like probably 2 weeks doing, now I can just do them in like 2 days, even some 4 hours. So in that way, when you see me go to conversation just like this, or maybe I'm featured in a publication, when I'm asked things, I tend to talk about Claude. Now, that is the part where they talk about the advocacy part. Now, this is how I think of it from the ETL perspective, like the extract, transformation, and loading for the community. Yeah, so that's my method, that's my incentive when I talk about engineering community. And after doing all of this now, definitely we might tend to talk about that in the conversation. But after doing all of this now, there's the part where you talk about measuring all of this you've done. Talking about the measurement, right? You can't just keep doing. Community is not, let me put it this way. Community is not an experiment of several activities without results. As much as you do several experimentation, there's definitely the growth experimentation part where you do your A to B testing, trying different things for different member of the community to see what works. Several several apps tend to do it for their members, for their users, right? You see WhatsApp sometimes. You see you see the likes of LinkedIn, Twitter. You see some features are shared with some set of persons first. Some new features are usually shared with some set of persons. Like when they bring a new feature, for example, on Twitter, one of the new feature they brought is trying to use the video, tweet to video, where you can, it's just like they call it blue screen. Is it green screen? Sorry, where you can see a tweet at the background and you, the person at the front, you start talking. Now, this feature is not available to everyone. I was trying to use this feature and I discovered that, I can't find it on mine. Why? Then I discovered that some set of persons too, they were saying the same thing. Now, what they are doing at this point is A/B testing. Depending on the feedback of the first set of people they experiment while giving this feature to, will determine how they'll distribute it. Now, if they experiment with the first set of people that they didn't really get good feedback, they might probably just keep that feature. That is what they call feedback loop for community.
Yeah.
Which is actually very important in helping and improving on products. Yeah.
And I also liked how you mentioned that this community is not a random set of actions, because sometimes I feel that companies hear that, oh, community, everyone is doing community, we need to do community, and then they do like hectically running around, engaging people, asking them about how their pets are feeling or whatever. But they are forgetting the main thing, that is, first of all, the business goal, and secondly,
Yeah.
what is the goal of people who are joining the community? Like how does your business help them to reach their goal?
Their
Because
own goal. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, for example, we are currently using Zoom. Why do we use it? Because we have a goal to record this conversation and to put it out afterwards. If Zoom couldn't give us this feature, we wouldn't use it. Because
Yeah.
why do we need it? And that's exactly the case. And then, I really love the example of how you talked about Claude and being an advocate. And sometimes when you build a great product, people just start talking about it just because they like
Yeah.
it. And then that's
Yeah.
how you get more and more and more users. But also, you can fuck it up as a company. If people are talking about your product, if they love it, if they share it, but you do nothing to amplify those voices, to make them feel seen and heard, at some point they will stop talking about it. So, from your
Yeah.
experience, what companies should do to amplify people like you who are talking about the products and who are advocating for their products?
Hmm. So can you recap, like, get the question so I can,
Yeah, in a
speak
way
on
that
that?
you are a Claude advocate and you are talking about this. What should company like Claude do to keep you advocating for their product?
Yeah, I'll say two things, right? Two things. So the first thing is they keep ensuring the maintainability of that product and keep ensuring it's giving value. So a lot of times when a product, though this one is the surface level now, this is from the user perspective, not from the community leader perspective. From the user perspective, a lot of times there are some products that are almost inevitable. Product can be so good to the point that you find it hard to unsubscribe from that product, or you find it hard not to use that product because it's embedded in your daily workflow, which is what the likes of, like, several of Claude, for example, I feel like Anthropic, I feel like they are doing, because you see them trying to embed your workflow from the design to the engineering and several things like that. Now, it's make you, will I use the word, it make you stick, or it make you addict to that product positively. That's one. There's also the part where recognition and ambassadorship, right? When they notice people, they are social listening to, like, they are listening to like mentions, they are listening to like I've forgotten some of them now, Brand 24 and so on. They are social listening tools, right? When they use social listening tools, or some of them have in-house social listening to, well, when they tend to monitor what people are saying about the product online, right? When they see some mentions that this guy or this lady is advocating for this product back to back, right? Those are the type of people they tend to use as their ambassador, because it comes natural. When they recognize these people, give them, send like swags to them, like developer swags to them, right? Like, maybe it can be like maybe a bag. Definitely all developers have laptops, right? Not all developers, but a larger percentage of developers, they probably have laptops, right? I'll come back to why I said not all developers, because there might be a story where I'll share that around that later. Yeah, they have laptops. They might tend to need a bag. They might tend to need basic things, maybe a mic stand and so on. When you do some of these things to them, when they are using some of these tools, there's this memory psychologically that it gets stuck in their head and make them see you more than a community member and like a family and as a friend. In that way, they go extra mile to like support this product. So these are some of the things I would say community tends to like, they need to do for people that advocate for the product. In summary, the first one is ensuring the feedback loop from the community, from the users, are embedded into the product, engineering wise, in a way that can make the product better. Then the second one is recognizing, giving a proper recognition to the advocates that are pushing out, or ambassadors that are talking or pushing out your community tools or your product or platform? Yeah.
How to recognize them in the right way? So why I'm asking, let's imagine there is a company and they send you socks. Oh yeah, socks, it's nice, it's always good. But for example, they send you, like as you said, a laptop bag, but you are a professional developer, you work with different companies and you have like 10 of those bags. So you're like, another bag, whatever. You don't even remember who sent you those bags. So first one, yeah, you remember them. Yeah, thank you. But then like it's tense, you already forget it. So swag at some point, it stops working. How else can companies recognize their ambassadors?
So definitely I agree that another thing I would say is conversion. So conversion is the best people to hire for your company is actually natural advocates.
Yeah.
You open roles for the company. Like you can let this advocate know that when opportunities come in terms of that you've perceived relate to their experience, you can share it with them and be like, okay, my company is hiring for this role, maybe a business role, maybe an engineering role, and I see your experience suits with this company over time for the last 1 to 2 years or 6 months. You'll be advocating for us. I'm happy as a community leader for you to apply for this role, and I'll stand as a referrer. So probably you can get through past the resume level or ATS level. I feel that's an amazing recognition that will stick to someone's head in a lifetime. And the thing is, when this conversion happen, right, a lot of people that are also advocates, when they see these things, they want to go extra mile for that product or platform. Yeah, so I feel like this is a crucial. It's true, like you said, like at some point, swags might stop working, but all these things are levels. So what I mean, they are levels is the kind of recognition you give to someone that have been advocating for the product for 6 months is not the same recognition you give to someone that have been advocating for the product for 4 years. While someone that have been advocating for the product for 6 months, you can send swags. But one of the ways to do these swags is there are options, right? You send it to this person to pick options of the kind of swag that resonate or suit with them. So in that way, this person can think of, because when community program lead tend to create swags, one of the amazing things to do is they create options. They create options, right? When you send this to them now, maybe in a note that, can you select some set of swag that resonates with you among these options we have, right? The person can select some favorite swags that resonate with them based on their need and psychologically. So it sticks more than just assuming and you send random swag. Also, there's a point where after they've gotten the swag, you ask them about feedback in terms of what's their experience with using the swag. You also ask them about, can you suggest other possible swags that you feel like will be better that we can add to our collections? So when people suggest multiple options that they feel like, oh, maybe I would have preferred a USB cord, but I noticed that there is no USB cord among these options. For example, as an AWS community builder, for 4 years, one of the crucial swag they sent to me, they send me bag, they send me cap. I've gotten back from company before as an ambassador and cap, right? Several ones and shit. But one of the distinct ones they sent me was USB cord, a multiple phase USB cord, right? It has the port for an iPhone, it has the port for an Android, it has the port for there's a pin mount port. So part of what I used that cord for was I was organizing a community meetup, and they need a cord to connect something. That was the cord I used for that meetup. You get, so now that creates a different experience for me. When I use the cord and someone be like, wow, this is an AWS cord. Wow, that's nice. You've literally brought, to an extent, I'll say to a 40% level, you've conditioned someone's mind about using AWS. Because for someone that is not knowledgeable about AWS, using that cord as a meetup, they tend to ask that, how did you get this cord? What is AWS about? in that way, you are also sharing about AWS, bringing somebody else into using AWS for their companies and bringing solutions. So these are some of the crucial ways I feel like are important while like putting these decisions to ambassadors.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because while you were speaking, I just saw on my laptop I have this camera cover by Chorus. So basically, they were sponsors of one of the community conferences. And even though I'm not a user of them, I still have this camera coverage from them. And also, another example is that we are creating a conference for freelancers, Freelance Unlocked. And this year we created like really good shopping bags, like with a good material, with a nice picture on this. And we didn't make it like hundreds and thousands of this and like to give it to everyone. We created like around 200, 300 things. And people who got them, they really value them because they can take them on it to the shop. They can take them to a beach. They can take them to travelings. So I feel like, to a point, it's very, very important as a community lead to create not just some random swag and just send it for the sake of sending, but to actually go and listen and ask questions and understand what your community members are like, what do they need, what will actually make them feel that you care about them, not just sending them another piece of plastic, but what is exactly something that they can use it. And every time they use it, they will think, oh, it's AWS cord. Oh, they're so amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. I feel like that's a huge difference between sending some swag and sending specific swag that they need.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, we were talking a little bit about the definition of a community for business. And I'm curious, like, what's your definition of a community goal?
Community goal. I've explained, I think I shared this embedded in community for business. So a community goal, the aim of a community goal is still stick on value. Everything you do around community is tied around value. Value for different set of people, value in multiple folds, right? Maybe to the organization itself, to the members itself, and also to the person itself. So the goal of a community is bringing several set of people to communicate with each other, connect, and provide value to one another. And also, in that way, in the long run, it can benefit the organization. Let me give a perfect example in my head. In this place, I'll talk about a community and an audience. An audience is when you do everything. For example, when you want to do events, when you want to share your product, when you are dumping everything to different set of people, that's what you call an audience. You have an audience that they are probably just there watching. But you have a community when, as much as you are giving to that community, they are also gaining from you. That's when you have a community. And a practical way to know a community in this case now is, if you have I'm using Discord just as an in-house platform. It can be Discord, it can be Slack, it can be Discourse, and some people use advanced WhatsApp, like some few communities in WhatsApp business in Africa, they use advanced, they use WhatsApp business. But any platform you use does not matter, right? But in this case, if you as a community leader can stay silent, or the community team are silent for like 1 week, and members are still asking questions in that community, dropping several discussions and helping one another for like 1 week, and you are just literally just looking at them, then you've hit your target, you've achieved the community goal. That's the perfect definition of a community goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally relate, because at some time I was running community for sales experts in Ukraine, and at some point, I was the person who has to spark all the conversations. So I had to ask questions, I had to encourage people to answer. And then at some point it happened like that people started just talking by themselves. They started asking questions, they started answering. And I was just, I caught myself thinking like, my job here is done. And also I keep on, of course, I keep on connecting people. I keep on investing in the introductions. I keep on creating events for them. I keep on connecting with business goals. But like people are doing it, I already raised some ambassadors. I already raised some volunteer community professionals. They're just doing it by themselves, not because I ask them to do this, but because they want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And as you've said, they're getting value out of it. And it's fun. I recently
Yeah.
had a conversation with one of my friends on LinkedIn. And we were talking specifically about the value. Like what's the value for community members? Like how to find this value. And I'm curious from your experience, let's imagine that you are creating a community for, let's say, AWS. And then you are thinking like, okay, I need to invite people, like what's in it for them, like what's the value for them. So as a company, as someone who creates a community, how do you understand what value your members can get from the community?
That's an amazing question. So I think there are two ways. There are two ways to think about this, right? There are two ways. I've handled and run a community as an organization, one. I've also handled and run a community as a leader around a product or a platform. Now, I'll be talking from the two sides. The one you asked about is how I can explain this from a product side or a platform. AWS is a product, right? And it can also be a platform depending on what you are using here. I will also share about how I've done this from an organization point of view. Yeah. So from what I get, the question you have is, and you can recap it so it will structure again in my head so I can hit the question raised around how do I determine the value, or can you recap that again?
Yeah, how do you understand the value that members can get from your community? Because we were talking a lot about the value overall. So you as a community member, you have some expectations, and you as a community creator have to kind of create this experience for the members that it meets their expectations, that keeps them active, keeps them engaged, keeps them wanting to come back. So how do you understand their expectations? How do you understand what value community gives to them?
Okay, first of all, what I'll start with is I'll say listening. You need to be an active listener. So when community members come to community, the first thing they do while they jump into that community is they tend to observe from the perspective of they tend to see how people like them, which are developers, are being engaged. They look at the Discord channel and look at how several people that they probably have asked some questions, or one way have been supported, like from when they start, and they observe. That's from what I'm talking from someone that have been a community member and what I've seen over time. Is more like an African saying and an African proverb. See how the proverb, and I'll align it here. So it says something like this: when a chicken gets to a new environment or a new city, the first thing the chicken does is step one foot on the floor, raise the second leg, turn left, turn right, to observe what is happening in that environment. Then he puts the second leg on the ground, then he starts walking. It's an African proverb. Like the elderly people, the elderly Africans tend to say this. Now, let me align this to community is when, like I said, to create an healthy community is where the community leader stays silent and people are helping each other and supporting each other. You've achieved your goal. Moving from that goal now, that's where the value comes from, because when this goal is achieved, your organization creates a community pipeline. The members in the community is a direct pipeline to sales. In that way, people can be converted as a user to your product. Now you've provided value to that product from the sales perspective. As a community, the community as I'll say a middleman from the community member to the organization revenue, the sales perspective. Now, the community member in this case is still the case of when they see the activeness in that community, right? In that way, they see value around that community.
Yeah.
From this from a product perspective, but from an organization perspective, I'll say this. In Africa, it's a bit different. So I do say this word that talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. When it comes to Africa, organization perspective, when you bring people together and you are trying to create a community, let's say around data and AI, that way, when people are able to get referrals, like get a job as a beginner, or move from a beginner to an intermediate, or move from an intermediate to a senior through mentorship pipeline that you set in your community, in that way, you are providing value from an organization perspective, from the community aspects.
I can totally get what you're talking about, and like the number one word that I keep coming back in our conversation is it's a value, and I feel like it's something that both sides sometimes. I'm not talking about just businesses or companies. Sometimes people are also missing this part because sometimes you are joining a community because you want to get something, and it's okay. It's nothing bad. Everyone wants to have something in their life. Someone wants a better job. Someone wants some friends. Someone wants someone to talk to, etc. And it's totally good. But at some moment when you come to the community with an intention to take, and you see that people are inside giving, it also motivates you to give first. And that's when the beauty, because when you take, it's okay, you took something, you out. But the moment you start giving, it's the most valuable experience, like for both sides. And that's where the beauty happens. Because companies and members, they are starting to connect, and we're all coming back to our human level. And that's exactly where we are our best parts, our best humans. And I feel like we can talk about it forever, and I really wish to have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. So the final question, I heard so many times the word value. So I'm curious, what's your personal value in building communities? Why do you keep investing your own time of your life into creating communities?
So I'll say this is, among all the questions, this is one of my favorite questions, right? So I said something before now that what's the inspiration for me behind community? The inspiration for me behind community, it wasn't something intentional. Like you shared something when we were having conversation personally before this podcast. You shared that you were doing community for years. You didn't even know it was called community. For me, that was the case. I was actually doing community even as an engineer. I didn't know it was called community. The inspiration behind this started from over here in Africa, right? Several of these opportunities, like working as a data engineer, working as a data scientist, working as a data analyst, several of all those opportunities are not, I'll say, is not a lot. That's what I talked about. Talent is evenly distributed, right? Yeah. But opportunity is not. So the inspiration behind this was I got a global role, and I thought about how it's possible and I thought about the hurdles I face, like several hurdles that I face and challenges I face. And I thought about how I wished there's a community, an ecosystem where people tend to collaborate with each other, where people tend to mentor each other, where people tend to bring each other together. That was what inspired me as regard coming into community, where I started everything community. So I was doing this through conference, through hackathons, through webinars, through sharing online. For example, when I started sharing about data science and AI actively, I started with Twitter in 2021. I started sharing from the perspective of, I noted on Twitter as at 2021 that I noticed that I see a lot of my friends from US, they tend to share a lot of like data and AI content. Is a culture there, is a cultural thing. They share what they learn online. I noticed several friends too that I was making them from India, from Asia. They tend to share these things and all. But at that point in time, I thought about it that I've not really seen Africans sharing these things. So I started thinking of it that I know that I'm embedded in the ecosystem. Like, I know people that are doing this thing. So I thought about it that the first way to do this thing is for me to start it. Then I look at what the guys from US is doing. Then I look at what the guys from India is doing. Then I thought about, okay, for everything I'm doing engineering wise and things I'm learning day to day around data science, machine learning, and AI, I'll be sharing everything as a thread on Twitter actively. I started doing that actively. Now I was doing that from the point of me trying to bridge a gap, like an underrepresented group in the space. In the process of me doing that, several people that are in the African space following me, they got inspired. Several of them that they were active on LinkedIn that I didn't even know. They started seeing my content everywhere, and they start believing that there's an ecosystem on Twitter. From that reason, when they come on Twitter, when they make posts, they tag me. And one of the things I do is I quote their tweets and say, this is a new creator from Africa here. We are increasing our numbers, right? Yeah. Follow this person. Several of my followers tend to follow that person. And now the distribution of the chain of creators chain distribution for Africans started increasing to the point that I was not even in the chain anymore. And now it has spread. And a lot of people didn't even know how it started. They didn't even know the origin. To me, that's success. That's the inspiration that started, because my aim of contributing to community is not to be a sole proprietor. A sole proprietor in commerce, from what I remember, is someone that handles, a single person that handles the business. My aim is to put something down and start a movement, where this movement gets to a point where I don't even know where this movement is going anymore, but it's something positive, and people just adopt that movement and take it as their own. And I just let it be. That was the inspiration behind this for me. And that was how I got into community. From there, I got hired by a company like by Iterative AI product, an AI product company. And I've been doing this now, holding that community actively, doing things from measuring metric to several impacts that I've been making. I would say one impact we've made is one crucial and unique thing is we literally have trained over, I would say, approximately 8,000 African youths to knowing data science and AI, to being knowledgeable about data science and AI. And 75 to 80% of them, they had no knowledge of anything data, whether analytics, engineering, or the science. They had no knowledge. But in the last 4 years now, we've trained approximately 8,000 youths from 40 African nations to getting access to learning on data science and AI, getting mentorship while building active projects. Then after building projects, also organizing hackathons that make them get a job, and also reviewing their portfolio. And now several people, over 100 to 120 plus people, has gotten a job from different pipelines, from the conference pipeline to the learners pipeline, to the data camp pipeline that we partner, our partnership pipeline, to hackathons pipeline. Over 100 to 150 people has gotten a job, even some that we were not able to track. So that's success.
And that's the best part, that, there is a clip on somewhere on the internet, how to start a movement. And there is a person just coming into the middle of the field and started dancing. Everyone is looking at that. It's a weird person. Like, what does he do? Then at some point, the second person is joining. Then the third person is joining. And then the whole field is dancing. So that's exactly how I see, your story. You're just saw the gap. You see that something is missing, and then you just start leading by example, and then you started encouraging people. And that also, as you said, you are not just taking all the spotlight for yourself, but you are highlighting other people. Hey, here is one more person who is doing this. Here is one more person doing that. And that's exactly how you build a community. That's exactly how you make the world better and make people seen, heard, and hopefully happier. And to keep the conversation going, name 2 people I should reach out to talk about community ROI.
ROI, right? Maybe you permit me to list 3 people.
Yeah.
So why I said you permit me to list 3 people is because maybe you might reach out to one of them. Like, probably they might not be active online or something, or they might not respond on time. But let me think through. Someone to talk about community ROI. So his name is Adam Schroeder. Yeah, so Adam Schroeder. Why I feel like he's one of the best person to talk about community management for community ROI is because Plotly is like an household name in the data space around analytics and to some extent engineering, but around analytics and visualization. And they have a large body of community around open source. So we were having conversation yesterday, and he told me about trying to create an hackathons and all. So I feel like he's the best person to talk about ROI as regards community. You can, yes, Adam, I'll share his name. I'll share his name to you on LinkedIn.
I will definitely follow up. I will ask you to share them with them. You know, you already gave me Adam, who came to mind immediately. It's already an amazing person to talk to. And then every time that you have someone in your mind who's building amazing communities, who would like to share their experience with the world, who would like to help more businesses to understand the power of communities, how to build community in a way that bringing value to your members, making your customers succeed and make your business succeed by that. And Gift, thank you so much. Like once again, coming back, all the way through our conversation, first of all, I heard so many times the word value. And secondly, I see how you are personally inspired by making people seen, making people heard, and not just in a human way. Human way, it's amazing, but also in a way of how can people improve professionally? How can they move forward in their careers? How can they get better earnings? How can they get better living? Yeah, exactly. And that's all who you are. And I'm super happy that we met. And thank you so much for sharing your experience with me.
Yeah, same here, Yurii. I really enjoyed this conversation with you and the type of question you have. Like, these are the type of conversation I enjoy. Yeah, so I really love your patience and the way you made everything conversational. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Gift. And see you in the community world. And thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about how the community can help you reach and overcome your business goals faster, let's connect on LinkedIn and talk about it. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.